Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you are doing great. I hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, my friends, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we discuss here on the Common Sense channel. So, once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. For today, we want to talk about a topic that I love to talk about. But it's going to be it's democracy again, but it's going to be religious democracy. I want to start by saying this is strictly based on educational purpose. Um, and I will say this, that the way we see the world is how we interpret it. And on the Common Sense channel, I like to point out those things that you don't see, but they are relevant, they are there. So today we're going to talk about religious democracy. And the reason why I chose this topic is because democracy is one of those elements that can fit on anything. I mean, you just need to add democracy to whatever is it you're doing, and it makes sense. That's why if you look at most of these countries that are run by, as you see there a lot, you see this a lot in Africa, where you see the Democratic Republic of this, the Democratic Republic of that, the People Democratic Party. They use that because democracy is is one of those word that once you use democracy on anything, like for instance, Democratic Socialist Party or Socialist Democratic Institution, none of those stuff makes sense. It's either you're one or you're none or you're nothing. So it's either you're a socialist or you're a Democrat. You can be a Democratic. I don't even like to say Democratic, but you're either one of them. Are you religious or you're Democratic? Because if you look at religion and democratic concept, the core issues between the two doesn't even rhyme. There's no similarity between the two. You either religious or you're democratic. So when you add the two, religious democracy, then that makes people to feel at ease. It makes them to feel like they're part of that institution, that it's the majority that are running the whole thing, even though they make you feel that way. But at the top, at the hierarchy, at the top of that entire institutions, whether circular, because there are different form of democracy. There's circular democracy, which is what America is. That religion is private, government is neutral, and in all of this are the majority, are the others, and the others in a circular democracy are people who do not subscribe to none of that, but they're part of that democracy. So America can be at some point considered as a circular democracy. And you'll find most countries in the world, especially Western countries, and few African countries that are like that are circular democracy. It's very easy. They could be circular, but to blend in the international world of other nations, you have to use democracy, because democracy in and of itself is a religion. Yeah, whether you like it or not. But what I will say is that in a religious democracy, the only thing that's missing in a religious democracy is God. And I don't like to say God, I like to say the Almighty. And in a religious democracy, whether you want to call it democracy, a circular democracy, or religious democracy, they have other names, whatever out there, whatever you want to call it, right? The only thing that's missing is God. God is not in the picture. Most of the laws, the rules, the regulations, the policies, the procedures of these man-made entities or organizations are strictly based on few people writing the rules, calling the shots, and telling um, the people what to do and what not to do. And that's the case for most religious democracy. But um, sometimes they may make it look like it's inclusive. There are, especially in Christian democracy, you see that. You say Islamic democracy too. What I'm trying to do is to show you how easy it is for anyone who has an agenda, who is trying to hide something from you, who is trying to control your mind, who is trying to hook you to use democracy. Democracy can be used on anything. Why is that? It's because in democracy, like religion, that's where all the ills of society, all the evils of society, that's the safe place to go. You understand? Um, it's 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 something. It's not difficult to understand. Why? Because those who control the world have decided. When I say those who control the world, I mean those who are writing the rules, just like those who are writing the rules for democracy, those who are writing the rules for religion, those who are writing the rules for anything, capitalisms, industrialism, socialism, communism, Nazism, um, Zionism, all the isms out here, those who are writing the rules for them, they're the ones that get to decide what system is best. And they all have agreed that the best system that is more acceptable by the masses is democracy. You understand? And they are, in as much as they agree, I mean, all of them, just for example, in Christianity, it could be a Christian democracy. The Catholics do not get along with the Anglicans, true. The Lutheran do not always get along with the Baptists, or the Baptists and the Lutherans don't get along with Catholicism. They don't. Most of them, these denominations, do not think that Catholicism is a religion. I've been saying this for some time now. But guess what? When it comes to Christian democracy, they all have agreed, and they don't really dispute this, even though they have the disagreement. But I think the disagreement are based on theology, because they're the ones writing theology. Some even have institutions specifically geared towards their own doctrine, their own theology, on the way they understand, the way they approach their deity, God, the way they believe God interact with them in their denomination, But there are a couple of things that they all agree with. For example, they all agree on December 25th as the birthday of Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach. I say Yeshua HaMashiach, aka Jesus of Christ. They all agree on that principle, which is democratic. They all agree on the idea of Easter. They all agree on the story of Jesus, the birth of Jesus. They all agree that he was born in the Middle East. They all agree that his disciples were called the names that there are, European names. So in that sense, it's democratic. The same with Islam too. Islamic democracy. Although sometimes those who are calling the rules on you, because even in Islam, there are people too that call the rules. These are the high people. And even in that concept, God doesn't exist. Even them too, they have their own little division. The Sunni, the Shia, the Bahab, I think. These people, they all agree on one thing. Many other things. They agree that the Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of Allah. They all agree that you should pray 5 times a day. Even though they disagree, but I think most of their disagreements are based on, or the core reasons of their disagreement are just based on tradition. Because if you look at most religion, the main controller of religion, I don't think religion is that stronger as people want to make it. I think it's tradition and culture. I say mostly culture is stronger than religion. So if you look at the Sunni, you look at the Shia, most of the teachings, it's not really around the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's strictly based on tradition. Wherever they come from, is that most of the religious beliefs are centered around that culture values, traditional values. It's the same with Christianity. If you look at Christianity from an African lens, you wouldn't find even though they want to say it's democratic, even the same way the European beliefs of Christianity that has been transcended to the Africans. So the Africans also believe the same thing. They believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. They don't question that. So that's democratic. But if you try to practice Christianity in Africa, you would easily notice that there are more cultural aspect of the African environment that has been infused into Christianity, even though it's European based. But the way they worship, the way they do certain things, those are all cultural. And European religion, which is Christianity, they don't have issue with that as long as you all agree on those core principles which I listed, that Jesus was born on December 25th, and then that he died 3 days and resurrected, and that he's Lord and God. Once you agree with that, you do all the other stuff. That's the democratic aspect of that. Same with Islam. As long you do those things, those core principles of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you are accepted. You can go to Hajj, even though it's from the people in Saudi Arabia. You can do whatever you want to do. You pray 5 once you do those things, you're fine. The other things, they are from us. We control them. And that, my friend, is what I'm talking about. which is religious democracy. Religious democracy is the bigger picture. Now, those people who are not part of none of these people, who just see the world for what it is, who just see the world and all of these people with their isms as confused, you understand? Um, and say, I don't want to be part of that. Now, they don't fit in. They don't fit in none of these democracies because sometimes they like to say the core values or the main principles of democracy is the majority. But that concept has been debunked. And that's what I do here. I look at these things and I say, lie, 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 lie. There's no such thing as majority exist in any of this thing. One of the main elements of religious democracy is when you look at Rome. Rome has a president. It's a city by itself, if you don't know. It's just like when you go to Jerusalem, it's a big city by itself. So Rome has its own president. The president is of Rome is the Pope. It's a democracy. But only one people, hierarchies that are calling the shots. No one can question that, but it is a democracy. You understand? So those people that are in the middle, that are not calling the shots or are not writing the rules that are governing religious democracy, they often come in conflict with these ideals, you know, and they look at them and they point fingers, and then most of the time they get in trouble. That would be my kind of people, because those people just didn't wake up one day. These people want to be free. They want to live in the world where they're not forced to adjust, because if you look at some countries, like in this country where America is more circular, although there are a bunch of people that have set themselves aside and they says, no, we're not circular. We were the foundation of America was predicated on these religious values by the founding fathers. And some of them don't even know the history of the founding fathers, like their beliefs, because most of the history of these individuals were not really written in books. Even if they were written in books, they were not released to the masses of people. You have to do deep research. You have to look at materials from people who had this knowledge to put them out there. And some people don't have time to do that. So whatever is projected to them is what they believe. Like I've often said, if you're relying on the American history books for your information, you are not. Just you'll be like you're listening to some of these traditional news outlets out here for all of your information. And if you do that, you're going to be misled. Or if you're just reading one book, like if you're just reading the Bible, you wouldn't know that there are other religions out there. You understand? You wouldn't know that there are other texts out there. You wouldn't even know that the entire Bible was not even completed, that there are more books that were omitted from the Bible. Or even, I don't know much about the Quran on this aspect, because the Quran is not even, it's not in the, it's not written as a book. It's not breaking down into books, breaking down into surah and other portion of the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So it's not written into books. It's just as the message came to the Prophet, so it was released to the people Except maybe now and there are a few things when tradition and culture came into it, it kind of add some value to it on their own basis. You see what I'm saying? So everything is good. Things are good until human lays their hands on it. Then you know the rest. So things, it's not like the Almighty do speak to people and try to pass down messages to people. It's just the ones that are in charge of it. So I'm trying to say that would manipulate it, would do whatever they can to gain power and control. So yeah, so religious democracy is real, but people are smart enough. Those people that are writing the rules or that are passing the judgment, that are deciding who can do what, who cannot do what. These are the ones that are calling the shot, even though they tell you it's democracy. So democracy in and of itself, religious democracy or democracy as a concept is where everyone hides. And religion is where everyone hides too. When I mean everyone, all the ills. Mm? It's a safe place. When you hear people say a capitalist democracy, an industrialist democracy. I mean, you can. The reason why I'm saying this is to tell you that you can add democracy to anything, and it would validate that thing, even if that thing is not the serving in a purpose for which it was established. So democracy makes someone feel good.